Hello, and welcome to another great edition of Money Truth Moments with our very own Money Whisperer, Judy Copenbarger. How are you, Judy?
I'm doing great. Carlos, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. I always look forward to our show, and we have another great topic today, folks. So make sure that if you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.com. Make sure that we are welcoming also new viewers as well too. So make sure that you share out the stream with all your friends and business owners. Today we have a really great topic, and we're going to be discussing in detail how we can leverage excellent personal and family financial planning. That's a big topic for today. So we got a lot of ground to cover. So what do you say we get started, Judy?
I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
All right. So let's start with how do we even begin, right? To learn the systems to grow. How do we begin by leveraging or starting to build an excellent personal planning?
Well, the first thing is to put a plan in place. You got to plan while you can. If you wait till it's too late, then you've waited till it's too late, right? So that's one thing, just to have good intention and being proactive rather than reactive when you're with your finances. And if you're doing this with someone else, with your spouse, with your family, with your parents, you want to make sure that all the decisions happen collaboratively. And that requires, yes, talking, communication. It all comes down to communication. And, financial planning is a moving, breathing thing. There are expenses that will change. There are laws that will change. There are assets that will change. The amount of cash flow and cash reserves you have, it's always changing throughout your life. Even if it feels stable and you plan on having the same job for a long time, other parts of your life will change. Your family changes and evolves and grows. And, now you've got children and now they're, up and out. So as those things evolve, you've got to kind of roll with it and consider your financial plan to be a moving, breathing document. It's something that will evolve as you go through life. And if you don't communicate about that, there's room for misunderstanding. Understanding would be great, but it's misunderstanding. Well, you spend too much. Well, you don't make enough. All those things, as things change, all those things can come up and cause disharmony in a marriage or disharmony in the family. And so planning while you can, keeping communication open, I think are the two biggest elements that I could think about mentioning when you ask about how to leverage, really great planning.
So as we're talking about creating this leverage of excellence, and especially in financial planning, I know that we've talked about before, as we're getting started in, whether you're out of college, whether you're starting a family and all of that, planning is the key, is what you've shared with us in a lot of times. And I know that we have new viewers and new listeners as well too, but tell us some best practices. How do we get the conversation started on that right path, whether we're out of college with ourselves or, talking pre-marriage, marriage, and even, years into it, right? Most folks don't talk about it until either they're arguing or it's too late, right?
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
yeah, absolutely. Well, you always start the plan with the end in mind. So if you think about a roadmap, the first thing you put in is where you are and where you want to end up. If you think about a blueprint, you start with, what do I want? I want an office building. I want a house. I want a beautiful barn. Whatever it is you're trying to build, you start with that in your mind. And then you start to put the steps in, the foundation, and then the infrastructure, and then the walls, and then the roof. Now, you can't put the roof first before you put in the foundation or dig down to prepare for the foundation. You have to do things in a certain order. So that's the science of it. There's also an art to financial planning. So you need the technical, the sciencey part, the numbers part, the economic part, but then you also need to put your goals and your values and your characteristics on it. And every plan should have your personality and get the outcome that you want. So I hope that's helpful. In any planning starts with communicating what you want to have happen. 5 years, 10 years, the other end of your life. What does that look like for you? And then you work backwards.
So let's talk about foundation. Foundation, you have a bestseller book, Money, Truth, and Life. That's, to me, it's the foundation of a lot of what you've talked about. And if you can take a moment right now just to talk a little bit about your book, but I want to focus more specifically on the areas of the 5 pillars of foundation, because that's the key that you've talked about before, and it's a huge driving force behind your book as well. So share with us about the book and the foundation of the book.
Yeah, the principles behind the 5 pillars of finance is it's about completion. It's about collaborative working. It's about leaving no stone left unturned, filling in all the gaps. So some people will do some planning and they'll do a really good job, but they miss something. And then there's an implosion financially. An example would be, in 2008, everybody had all these houses. They were buying up, spec houses and flipping houses, and they didn't have enough cash reserves in case a rainy day came, and a rainy day came. And so they ended up losing a lot of properties. So they did really well in growth, in acquisition, but they didn't do well in the cash flow and cash reserves part. Another thing that happens is people will have a stock portfolio or mutual funds or some kind of investments, and they think, great, we're going to go achieve a goal. Let's cash out. And they do that. And then next year, who comes knocking? IRS. You didn't realize that you had a big gain in that property or in that stock that you sold. And now you've caused a tax problem, which is a cash flow problem because of another decision that you made. So the idea with the 5 pillars is to consider all 5 of them, all the growth ones, all of the protection ones, for every decision that you make. So you don't go backwards because you fix something in one area and caused a problem in another.
Excellent. And folks, if you're just joining us, please make sure that if you're not following Judy, do so at judycopenbarger.com. We're going to talk about her website a little bit later on in the show, but we are currently talking about how can we leverage excellent personal and family financial planning. We just covered some of the foundation pieces. Judy just discussed about her book, Money, Truth, and Life. We're going to dive in a little bit more on some of these pillars a little bit later on in other shows, but we are going to touch on certain things that could help us leverage that personal and family financial planning. So having said that, Judy, tell us exactly, like, when we talk about family, right, it's usually not just husband and wife or spouse or significant others. Usually sometimes it involves kids, right? So in trying to leverage that excellence, how do the kids come into the mix? What can we do as adults, as parents, to kind of help that also in the process, take care of our kids?
Well, I think the first thing is to involve them in your family finances. Make sure that they understand the basic concepts, that they're watching you earn money, they're watching you spend money, they're watching you manage it well, they're watching you protect it, they're watching you give it away, even when they're tiny. You can go to the grocery store and talk about what you're doing, why you would choose that can of peas over the other, and price per unit, price per ounce, all of those things. Talk to them about the economics of doing life. Talk to them about why we turn off the lights if we're not using them, and why we turn off the water while we brush our teeth, right? We're not just saving water, we're saving money. And if we save money in one area of life, we can use it as a tool in another area of life. And I think, we're talking about the foundation, the 5 pillars. I think they should know what the 5 pillars are as early as they're able to understand that. And they are simply taxation. And then you have the 2 protective pillars of legal entities, wills and trusts, and things like that, things that protect you. And then insurances, all kinds of insurances that make sure that if we have a financial catastrophe, it doesn't take us out financially. We have insurance to make us whole, to replace our car, to rebuild our home if there's a fire. If there's a health issue, make sure that we don't bear all of that burden. And then the 2 pillars that are more growth oriented are cash flows and reserves, like the cash part. Think about what's in the bank or what's in the credit union. And then your investments, which could be real estate, they could be stocks or bonds, they could be mutual funds, 401k, maybe if you have that available at your work, or a 403b, IRAs, things like that. So make sure that if you're dealing with a family and you're raising kids up, or you've got young adults in your life, whether they're your children, your neighbor's kids, your grandkids, make sure that they understand the foundations and just these basic principles. And worst case, get them the book. If you don't want to talk to him about it, get them a great resource. And Money, Truth, and Life is written just for that. It covers all the 5 pillars, the basics of what you need to know so you ask the right questions. When you hire a CPA, when you hire an attorney, when you're thinking about looking at the options at work for benefits, it gives you all of the information you need to make good decisions and ask good questions of the people serving you, and then put together a plan that will be optimized and minimize all the mistakes.
Great. And as we're continuing to talk about foundation, let's take a moment. Let's talk about judycopenbarger.com. Share with folks the wealth of resources that are available for them. And that way they, this, I think this also will help in building and answering a lot of those, foundation questions as well too.
Sure. Well, the judycopenbarger.com website has helpful articles and videos. There's a lot of videos just like this on all kinds of topics of finance, how interest works, how a revocable trust works. What's the difference between a trust and a will? What's the difference between an irrevocable trust? And when would I choose one of those special provisions? It talks about, the bears and the bulls. What is that anyway? I think that's a great story. And how mutual funds work. What kind of a collection of investments are inside a mutual fund or an annuity? Some people have annuities. If you're a teacher or a public servant, that's usually available as part of your retirement package, and they can be really helpful. It's funny on the subject of annuities, a lot of people, it's like, oh no, don't do that. Don't go near those. I know people that have been burned. Well, all an annuity is a life insurance contract with an investment wrapped inside. So there are guarantees on the investment. So it's not a bad thing. What I think people get caught up in is the difference between an annuity and annuitization. And around our office, annuitization is usually kind of a bad word. The company wants you to do it because you're going to trade in your whole investment for a dribble of money every month or whatever, as long as you live, which is a good guarantee. But for most people, there's a better way to use that vehicle. And so if you get caught in annuitizing, that means, that money, that big bucket of money you had is not available to you anymore or liquid for you anymore. So annuitization might be bad. Annuity could be really good. You just got to watch the fees.
Excellent. And folks, again, make sure that you do take some time to go to judycopenbarger.com. All of our social media links are on there as well too. And like I say, you just take some time and you'll get to learn a lot, get your questions answered. A lot of great stuff on there too. So I'm glad that channel is up there too as well. So folks, take advantage of it, please. So let's get back to, we're talking about the 5 pillars. What would you say, in not necessarily, I don't know if there's a particular order on this, but folks are going to ask, and they have asked also, if you had to choose one to get started with on those 5 pillars, which one would it be?
Well, I've got the perfect answer for you. And it's an answer that I learned probably the first couple of weeks of law school back in the days. And it's the right answer every time. And the answer is, it depends. It really does depend. Some folks, when they engage with us or when they're, training with us or learning from us, they really struggle with cash flow. Like they've never had a handle on their spending plan, which some people call a budget. I don't like the word budget. It sounds like diet. It's what I can't have. Spending plan, eating plan, that's what you get, right? So turn it around. It's a spending plan. Some people really struggle with making the ends meet. They just, and they double their income and double their income again, and it's still tight. They run out of money before a month, and they just don't have a handle on that. So for a couple like that or a person like that, we really focus on the choices that we make around expenses, timing expenses and allocating the dollars. And it's very simple to do when you have a method, when you have a roadmap. But for some people, they struggle with that. So that might be the emphasis for the first part of planning. For another couple, it might be they've done a great job accumulating. They've got several houses, an IRA, some money in the bank, and they're doing really well. The kids are already up and out of college and on their own. And they look around, they say, we have a lot of stuff, but it's not protected. It's like, wow, well, let's get some tort liability protection. Let's look into some estate planning documents that will help you. Something will happen to one of you at some point. Death or incapacity will happen. And when it does, are we ready to protect what you've accumulated and are accumulating from taxes or predators or extraordinary fees from the probate system. You know, a lot of people like to avoid the probate system because it's costly and it's time consuming. Now, if you need the service that the court provides when someone passes away, then by all means you should use it. But if you can avoid the costs and the delays and the honestly the hassle of having the supervision of the court, and your family can handle what you have, or a trustee could handle what you have, you should do that. So some families start there. They start with protecting and they're looking at asset protection and their estate plan. Other people say, I just want to do better. You know, I have an IRA. I know there's benefits at work. I don't really know how many dollars I should put in. How will I know I have enough for my retirement goal, for example, or to save up for that 50th anniversary or 25th anniversary that we want to do something really special, take all the kids to Hawaii? How do we plan for that? How much money do I need over time? And there's kind of a little bit of math that we do with that. There's inflation and there's a growth and ROI and all of that. So how much money will I need? And we answer the question with a little bit of arithmetic.
Excellent. So folks, we're coming towards the end of the show, and you know what that really means, right? All right, Judy, we've got a great subject today. What do you got for us as a challenge?
You know, I'm going to make it threefold today. Here's your challenge. The first thing I want you to do is really explore judycopenbarger.com. Go on the website, check out the book, check out the videos. It's free. On the website, there's also access to the Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program. And I'd love for you to go in there and watch a class or take a course and learn something that will just propel you to the next level. So let's make the first, I don't think I've ever made that as part of our challenge. Let's make the first part of the challenge. Go to the site, learn something you didn't know. Maybe it's a vocabulary, maybe it's a type of investment you've never heard of. You know, do something that increases your knowledge around your finances. You might hear something that you've already heard about, but you'll see it in a new way, a new perspective. So go there, judycopenbarger.com, click on the Money, Truth, and Life Online Mastery Program and do that for yourself. The second thing that I want you to consider doing as a challenge is to think about the 5 pillars. You've got taxation, legal, insurance, cash flows and reserves, and investments. And of those 5, as we're having a conversation here, you probably had 1 or 2 kind of pop in your head like, yeah, I need to pay some attention to that part of my financial life. Write that down. Make a short list of a gap that you have or something that you want to do more or better or different, a way to take yourselves to the next level. And then the third thing I want you to write down is, what are you going to do about it? Now that you've learned something, is it just more information rolling around in your head, or will you apply it and implement something that will actually help you? So the challenge is to take action. Take that short list of things that you wrote down, something that you heard today or something that you thought about might help someone else, and do something. And, you know, a goal is not a goal unless it has a timestamp on it. So by Sunday night, this coming Sunday night at 5 o'clock, what will you have done? Do something on that action list that you're creating. Do something. Make a call, look in your file, have a conversation, hire a subject matter expert that can help you. Whatever it is, do something. And then you will consider yourself better off because you took the challenge.
Excellent. That's a fantastic challenge, folks. So you've heard it. Make sure that you apply it and make sure that you share with us some of your results as well, too. So Judy, wrapping this up in a summary, how would you end our show talking about how can we leverage excellent personal and financial planning moving forward?
Well, plan while you can. Keep communication wide open with anyone who helps you make decisions and for whom the decisions are made. And I think probably the biggest giveaway that I could leave you with is be positive about it. Don't listen to the news. Don't listen to all the naysayers and the world's going to end and stuff like that. They've been saying that my whole lifetime, my whole career. There's always going to be that perspective to bring more fear around. You don't need that. Just take action, stay positive, and get your plan together.
Awesome. Great words, folks. Make sure if you're not following Judy, do so at judycopenbarger.com. Thanks for watching. We're here every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. And also coming on Thursday evenings at 7 p.m., you can watch the replay of Money Truth Moments. So if you missed Tuesday, make sure you catch up on Thursday as well at 7 p.m. All right, folks, until next week, Judy, next Tuesday, I will see you there.
All right. Thank you so much, Carlos. Have a great week.
You too.